All right, Coldie, what's up, man? Been a long time.
What is going on, Frankie? Good to see you as
Good to see
always.
you as well, man. So, due to all reports that I'm hearing, the sky's falling, right?
Yeah, somewhere. Yeah, fun all around everyone else and us, but we just don't know.
Sure.
Yeah. You know how it is. We just keep going.
Yeah, keep working. That's what I always say. I kind of almost like the preface to every podcast so far has been like that since we've been in this bear market. It's been kind of like, you see here all these people talking about the sky falling, and it's like, sure, that's going on around you, but you're gonna stop working.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think the sky falling is like always happening. Like it's not just it didn't just start. The sky's been falling our entire lives always. It's just
Right,
part of life. Like
right.
pick a sky. It's falling
Pick a
somewhere.
sky, yeah, for real.
It's like shit. Like I could choose to be outside in that sky, or I could pick a different sky and fucking go play over there, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, we're not like, you know, everyone isn't doing like the ether rain dances and like, going like fucking euphoria things, which is good. We need to like keep everything and there's a balance to life, right?
Right. Yeah.
I think
It is.
it's good to feel the other side of the euphoria,
Yeah,
right?
especially
Because
with how many people we acquired a bunch of people on the way up. Let's call it. And those people were in that euphoria stage. It was like the beginning for them. So they're like, oh, this is always gonna be like this. It's like, man, you don't know how it used to be. Like when I first got in this thing, people were telling me I was crazy for even being involved.
yep, absolutely. Yep. And I think, I mean, I guess good for people to come in when it's exciting,
Yeah,
as long as they could feel it. That's what we were doing the whole time. We were just like celebrating what we've already been doing. Um, so now I hope they stick around. I hope that what they were shown and what they experienced, they understood it wasn't more than just a flip or some like Ponzi scheme that keeps getting thrown around. Like this is a legit thing
right.
that is happening.
Exactly.
Like I've been through three of these now, and
Mm,
they're all different, but they're all the same because you know why? It's a cycle. It's called a
right.
cycle, and like
Exactly.
it's not like it happened the first time and I had to go find a new fucking cycle to jump onto. Like we just keep building. We're
Mhm.
builders, and I get actually I'm much almost more prolific when it's downtime than when it's uptime.
Mhm.
It's just like the rubber hits the road and there's no resting on your laurels. It's like, what am I going to do when I wake up today
Mhm.
to better myself and, shine a good light on this crypto art, NFT, whatever space you want to call it,
Mhm.
so that this isn't the end. Like we all just have to keep going.
Right.
Right. And I,
Right.
and I, and I, nothing's changed. It's not like Ethereum or Bitcoin are bad now.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
nothing has changed. If anything, they're getting stronger because there's more people are seeing the value,
Yeah.
right? So I
More people
think
are literally more people are using it, and when it comes to the NFT thing, there's so many more people involved. Now you have again you have these people that like kind of came for the flip, but you as you go along, still there's more people using the stuff. There's more businesses, and I know this firsthand experience. There's way more businesses involved.
yeah,
And big money businesses. I actually had a friend, and before we can keep talking about this, but I just want to introduce you. I haven't even introduced you on this.
we just go. We just
So I'm
go.
talking with Coldie, world-renowned NFT crypto artist. If you, I don't know what you would like to go by as far as title, but Coldie's one of the innovators in the whole of the NFT art space. One of the first people I ever saw being successful in this space, and doing really well. Uh, I remember you talking to me about selling art, almost trying to give art away.
Yeah,
Probably when I first met you, and not that you were doing that then, but that's kind of how it started, and then it evolved into this crazy world of selling pieces for 40 ETH at a clip and stuff like that. So I just wanted to preface about who I'm talking to, who I'm talking with, because I know we can just go on and on. The conversation just start flying off the handle.
yeah, and I mean, obviously, that everyone knows you.
Right.
I would like to say that you were one of the first people when we were getting back into this thing, like shit, 2018
Mm-hmm.
ish, 2018, 2019, like all those
2019,
years
yeah.
are becoming blurs. And it was like Cryptovoxels. It was early shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you were always so cool and like so down to lend your expertise, be a leader, for me coming in,
Mm-hmm.
and vice versa. I just love the copacetic back and forth that we've had since the beginning. It's just a lot of love, I think.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're great, and what you've done for the space, you're helping move it along. Like you said, like you're on a whole different wave. There's so many ways to help this movement
Mm-hmm.
that thank you for what you're doing.
I
It's
appreciate
huge.
that. I really appreciate that. Yeah. So kind of going back to where it was, where it all started for you. Let's go there first. In the beginning, where you were a digital artist prior to this, right?
Yeah, I've always been digital. Yeah, I mean, I got a degree in fine art, um, and graphic design. So like, I love textures. I love grungy things. So I would say I love making physical, tactile art that is like really distressed and grunged out, and like I was burning my canvases.
Mm-hmm.
I was like fucking things up and like putting lights in them. I was just like, I wasn't a trained painter, or I'm definitely not an illustrator,
Mm-hmm.
but I love the physical side of art in kind of like more, I hate saying avant-garde, but just ways that aren't like traditional.
Right. Yep.
So my whole way growing up was, photo collage, stereoscopics with 3D glasses.
Mm-hmm.
So I had this kind of nichey thing where I was doing these photo collages, but they also use 3D glasses. So it was already kind of like new media, or, just experimental digital design.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like what made me want to make things. I think that's the important thing for me, was I needed a reason or a theme or a process that I wanted to explore.
Right.
And for me, it was, at the time, figuring out how I could take these 3D glasses artworks. Actually, let me grab them, like,
Yeah.
because I got
Yeah. Definitely. So I already know there's Coldie has these and he's probably gonna bring them in a second. There's these like 3D glasses that he originated and he was using for his art pieces, and they say they have his signature on the side of them. And there's actually a version in Decentraland that he made, and they're like some of the coolest wearables. And I'm blessed to have been gifted a set by Coldie.
awesome. I'm glad you have some.
Yeah.
That's like the ultimate, like, uh almost like, it's not a fraternity, but it's a crew. When you walk around Cryptovoxels and you see someone with the glasses on, it's instant homie. I'm like, yes, absolutely. So I'm glad you
I
have.
almost instantly cold walleted those ones. I walk around with my normal Frankie Nita's avatar, but man, as soon as those came in, I was like, choo.
It's funny. I bumped into a guy, and I don't even really know his name. He was at the Moonbirds party in NYC, and he told me he is like a hardcore voxels wearables collector.
Wow.
Okay, so he goes heavy in there. I'm like, fuck yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean,
And he told me, he's like, those glasses you made are like my favorite collectible of all of them. I was like, holy shit. Like,
I felt very similar about the decent. I'm heavily got a lot of Decentraland wearables as well, especially from the beginning. And those were I was very, very, very happy to get that.
Yeah. I mean, what an honor. Like, I was just trying to make something like weird and like easy to do, because I'm not, like I said, I'm not like an illustrator, but I could draw an anaglyph frame and put a red and blue. Like, so I was like, I can execute that. And then I made the weird ones. I had a couple that had these
that was the one that caught me. I mean, when I saw you walking around, and I still think to this day that that's gonna be something that has to be revisited in the future. But like, maybe you would have it where in code you can put whatever NFT you'd like there. But
yeah,
what it was I believe that's one of your first pieces, right?
On the DCL.
Yeah,
The one where it's hovering behind me.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, dude, that, and hats off to the designer who did that. Sugar. Oh wait, what's the name of the
Okay, for
club?
Sugar Club. Yep, yep,
Yeah, Sugar Club. I mean,
yep.
we were jamming on that, and he brought that to because I'm the type of guy when I collaborate with somebody, I don't just say do this, do that. I open it up. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, you're the expert in that arena.
Mm-hmm.
Come to me with some like, what do you think? He's like,
Mm-hmm.
what if we put a fucking picture behind that? I was like, absolutely.
Crushed it. Crushed it, man.
Right? Yeah. So hats off. Like that was an awesome collab.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
here's the so this is a on a canvas.
Okay.
Okay. This is my very first piece I did using this process called a gel transfer. And you see this thing's flat,
Mm-hmm.
fully fucking flat. And the process of doing this is like super labor intensive. And you print this, you print a big sheet of paper and you invert your picture.
Okay.
Okay. You put this gel, like a glue on top of it on the paper.
Okay.
Ink soaks into the gel. It transfers off of the paper into the gel. And then you burnish the gel onto the canvas and let it dry. So you're literally lifting the ink off of the paper and bringing it onto the canvas.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Holy shit. Like I learned this in art school, and it was cool because it was grungy and it was this weird way. It was the only way I knew to get my digital shit onto a canvas.
Mm.
It was it. I'm sure there are other like, well, I don't know, it was the most fine art way that I knew to like move these things over.
Right.
So that's what I did. And that process took me like that piece took me, oh man, I burnish like every fiber. It's a lot of like, it's meditation because you have to slowly get it wet with a sponge and you're burnishing the paper off. And if you rub too hard or if there's an air bubble and you rub it, it flakes away and it's gone. You cannot repair it.
Okay.
I don't know how I did that thing so well. And there's a couple little spots like this part right here, this white part.
Yep.
That's not part of it. That flaked away.
Oh, okay.
Right. So it shows how like delicate that is. So like as soon as that happens, you go into like ICU surgery mode. You're like, oh, like how do we stop the run? How do we stop it from flaking? Yeah. And like all the edges here, they all got fucked up.
Yep. Yep.
But I learned a huge thing in this was that there's like, I feel like there's perfection and imperfection. So I had a goal, which was this layout digitally. Well, I didn't plan for this to be there or these, but it looks way better now because that happened, so it kind of taught me to trust the process. And if something doesn't go right, that's all right. Just do the best you can, keep going, like don't give up. And so I started doing those and, no one gave a shit. And I didn't care because I just make art. Like it's just therapy and it's just artists make art. It's just what they do. It's like lawyers do law.
Lawyers lawyer.
Lawyers lawyerize. I fucking artize, So I was just making shit and I have a whole, there's a whole bunch of them on this back wall that I was made like 10 years ago. And like, that was what it was. So when NFTs came around, I was already making this stuff and starting to get into some gallery exhibitions and, feeling out that world. And it was just grimy and you had to like suck up to the right people and you had to know somebody to get a show. And all these like things, all these friction points. It's like, I don't really want to do this. Like I would, because that's just the way the art world, that was the option. But, I wasn't like stoked about it at all. So when NFTs came around, I was like, holy shit, like this, there still is the art world, right? But there's this new thing where I have total control. I don't have to ask permission. I don't have to get, like, I don't have to be allowed or I don't get to not know my collectors. There's all these things that went away when NFTs came around. And it was so liberating because I already had a body of work. I already had a style. So it was easy for me to hop in and just say, here's my weird shit, like next to Xcopy's weird shit and Hackatow's weird shit. None of us were doing the same stuff, which was great. It's not like we're all vying for the same collectors, like completely different artworks.
Yeah,
You
definitely
know,
different
so
styles and everything. Yeah.
yeah, it's not. I don't think there's competing in art in general, unless the artist makes it a competition. Like you can
I
make
think I
anything.
think a lot of the artists, I do see artists competing in a certain way, and a lot of times it's behind when people start to get into money. You know, they get into some money, and then it's a competition for who can sit on that platform that does like the big Pac style sales and stuff like that. It just make the headlines and stuff like that. I think at some point that makes it lose touch. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
absolutely.
you know,
That's it. That's exactly it. You know, and like that affects everything. Like especially when I started to make big sales.
mm-hmm,
It's not about the fucking money. Like
mm-hmm,
money is nice. Don't get
mm-hmm,
me wrong. Like it's
mm-hmm,
easier to pay rent when you have money.
mm-hmm.
Like I fucking get that. At the same time, it can pollute your brain real bad,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like, and you see it all around you, and then you get a little bit of money, and you have to just take a step back and be like, what does this really change? First of all, like, am I happy? Like, am I healthy? Like those are things that sometimes when people get money, they're like, fuck it, man, I'm rich, and then you fucking have a heart attack or some shit. It's
yeah.
like,
Well, yeah, because you're doing the everything you wanted to do on 11. You know,
yep,
you're going after, and I was a victim of that to my own self too. You know, made a little bit of money, and I'm running around on every little trip I wanted to take, and doing this and that, not eating good. I had to take a little step back. I was kind of almost happy for the crash because it kind of corrected me mentally. You know.
yep, absolutely not. And you know what? I think at the same time, it's healthy to reward yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's something that it's good that you did it in a sense, right? Because like throughout our lives, many times we haven't had those opportunities. So I think that when it's there, it's okay to be like, fuck it, dude, I want to go fucking go there. I've never been able to go there. And like I think that is good because now that we're, in this building phase,
Mm-hmm.
I think it for me it's like if I work hard and I just do what I need to do, I will be rewarded through experiences. Or I know that what that can bring me in the future. So I'm going to work really hard and do my best, be a good person, and the universe is going to come back at some point with the things you're talking about. Like, damn, I've always wanted to go to fucking Boston or something or whatever. Like I'm going to go. Like
Right.
so I think that's the trade-off of life. Where we go hard a little bit, maybe we go a little bit too far, rein it in,
Mm-hmm.
right, and get back to work, and then know that it's a cycle, right? Again, like maybe next time instead of going to 11, we'll go to 8.
Yeah.
Have a good time,
Yeah.
but like not get totally blown out.
Yeah, there's I think there's a level of experience like you talked about. Me personally, I hadn't had much experience with being that up. So I was able, to go do some of the things I kind of dreamed to do, but at the same time, I'm glad I didn't take it too far.
Yeah,
And I tell people a lot of the times, I could have made a lot more money in this industry already, but I'm glad I didn't because I've seen too many people kind of lose it, like mentally, like they've gone too far, and then now they're almost in a way used to a certain kind of lifestyle, you know. And I'm happy to be doing what I'm doing and still working within the industry. Like I feel like if I'd have got rich in that way, then maybe I'm not working actually in the industry. Now I'm working with James Ashton and Festival District and Vegas City and Decentraland, and to me that's huge for me. It's like I'm working in the industry. Currently. So
yeah, and it's a fractal. It'll just keep growing. These things are building blocks. And I
exactly.
think that you and me have been in this several years now. So I think that's good also because we know that it's a long road. Like art and creativity in general, it's a lifelong road. You don't just make art for 5 years. you
Right,
know
right, yeah.
I guess you could, but like I couldn't stop doing it.
Mhm.
So I think it's nice to know that you don't just have to go as hard as you can for 1 year and maximize and sell and be
Yeah,
done. Like
yeah.
I guess don't get me wrong, to each their own. If
I
you can
think that,
make
yeah,
a
if you came in looking at it like that and you accomplished that, then your goal has been reached. Like
yeah, yeah,
if you look at it as like a run, like hey, I just wanted to go on one run.
yeah,
I've had some friends, that kind of were in the space, and they had their run and they're happy with it, and they've gone back to, kind of like their other regular life within the regular world of different industries and whatever they do. And it was, or literally, it was just a run for them, which is cool. you know
Yeah.
I know I wanted, right from the beginning of this, I knew I wanted to be in the NFT industry. I saw it as a growing industry that I like really wanted to be a part of. But that goes back to years of like building. When we were bear market time, I was making builds and stuff like that. All that stuff was for free, or I was paying out of my own pocket to do some of this stuff.
Yep.
So I feel like
Yep.
it was rewarded back by reserving a place in the industry for myself. And obviously with your stuff, you obviously way done that. But what I'm saying, like you've got now a spot in the industry. You're not going anywhere. And so now, what you call it, the building phase, some people would call the bear market. It's just another day of the job, really.
Yeah. I don't see bear and bull. Those are investing terms.
I feel like they're trading terms, even like
they're trading. Yeah, exactly. They're these like terms of money, and like I don't understand how you can have an outlook on life based on a banker's term or like an investor. Like that's the pollution that I think is happening, where it's like, what? You're living in that chart? You're literally, your happiness is based on that chart.
You are a green or red candle,
Yeah, what the fuck are you doing? Don't relegate yourself to a candle, like I think that's the thing that's coming in here, where, in the, when I started 2018 or whatever, like that was a bear market, but I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I was making art. Like I got it. I looked at the chart. I was like, yeah, it doesn't look like it's doing very well right now, but like, what does that have to do with what I'm making? It has nothing to do. Right. So I think the more we're able to decouple from that, we're going to free our minds and everything. Cause there's this shadow of, oh, I'm not going to release this right now because it's a bear market.
Yeah. 100%.
It's a bad time. What the fuck are you doing? Like I've released more stuff in this bear market than I have during the bull market. Like, it has nothing to, and that was just because my stuff wasn't ready.
Right.
Like, could I have cashed in more by selling more art then? Absolutely. People were throwing money around. My art wasn't ready. It's ready now, so here it is. Right. What am I? I'm not gonna, look at my production and be like, oh, I'm gonna wait for this banger. I think in 6 months we'll have some green candles. That's when I'm gonna put that one out. That doesn't make sense to me. That's not it. I mean, to somebody else, I don't care. I mean, that sounds like a smart.
Do you think that's like attributing to kind of going the way of the normal art world, where you have these kind of like hoops you got to jump through to be involved with certain kind of I don't know, let's say clubhouses or whatever it is, like, you know what I mean? Like where you talked about the original art world, the traditional art world, where there was kind of like off-putting to you because it was kind of like this, you got to suck up to this and do like that. And I'm seeing, because I'm personally seeing some, my artist friends that are getting jaded by the NFT art community now. And, I think that maybe some of that is attributed to people living by the candle,
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just, it's all consuming, because if you start worrying about how long this cycle is going to last and don't get me wrong. Like when you go from getting a revenue stream and then that revenue stream slows down, dude, I totally get it. Like that sucks. Totally sucks. Right. And I think that it's almost critical thinking time or problem solving time for ourselves. Like, okay, that's if you want to talk about like an actual stream in nature, you're like, oh, this stream dried up. Well, you better find another stream.
Yeah.
There's thousands of streams, right? Don't get stuck on this thing right now. Will it come back in the wintertime when it rains? Yeah, absolutely. It's called a cycle, right? Go find the other stream that might help you float down the river until this stream comes back. Like I sell t-shirts. I sell physical prints. I like to create things in different ways, and naturally those things help when one stream is drying up, so I think we're all so creative. It's just getting stuck on NFT or bust. That's hard. Right? Like who's to say? Maybe it'll keep working, and that's fine. But I found for myself that it takes the stress off of me if I'm at least creating in different ways. So there's an opportunity of, maybe everyone is ether hesitant right now, so they're not getting rid of their ETH. But if you got a $30 T-shirt, they're like, damn, I would like to support that artist. Here's $30 for a T-shirt. Sweet. That's the exact same thing as art. It's just an exchange of appreciation.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's 1,000 ways to do this. I just think
that a lot of the people that I'm talking to, they're getting a little jaded by a little toxicity within the community. But again, that's gonna come with people living by the candle. Like you're gonna have like if somebody, and this is like more like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like kind of like when people live on Twitter. You live on Twitter too much, then you're dealing with people who are not very, like, I go on these streams, my face, Frankie Needles has been my moniker since before crypto, so this is all like just me, but a lot of these people live behind an avatar or something else that, you know them as that. And then they can say these things that, maybe like doesn't encourage people to be creative and follow their creativity and just put out art the way they want to. Now it's kind of like, well, this is the good old boys club type thing, I can see where people are getting jaded in that way, but again, like you're saying, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to stop doing the thing that you do? That's really where people are tested, and people are going to want to follow someone who is willing to just continuously do what they do,
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what's respected in the long run. If you plan on being here for a long time, I mean, yeah, you're gonna have your ups and downs, but you have to just keep doing the things that brought you to the table.
Yep. And you know what? I mean, my favorite bedtime story, and I told my dad to tell me this damn story every damn day before bed, is the turtle and the hare story. And back then, the turtle and the hare would walk around our little cul-de-sac neighborhood. That was the path. And we made up little stories about how that turtle was gonna win. And you know what happened? The turtle won every fucking time. So that's my mantra. Like even now, like, and I still love that story. I tell my son the story, right? It's consistency. It's coming to work every day and showing up and not taking that nap because you're so far ahead, right? That damn hare is like, I got this one in the bag. I'm gonna go take a little nap. That turtle's so far behind me, I'm fine. Nope, you're fucked, dude. Yeah. And that is what I think about every damn day. And when I used to play basketball in high school, I got a key to the gym, and I used to go to the gym at 6 a.m. every day before school because I wanted to get the reps in because it was that same thing. If I show up and give everything I have at every single moment, I know that other person is sleeping right now and not getting his jumpers in, right? Same thing when I go to work now. Like art is now work, and I love that. I'm blessed. But I treat it that way where I go in and I give it everything every moment because I know that's how I'm gonna get out of it what I want. It's just hard work. Right. And I get asked that a lot by, I talk to lots of people on Twitter. People will DM me and looking for advice. And I love talking to people on Twitter if they're real. I love it, and people will say, hey man, especially in the bull market, this was funny. Hey man, just want to get a little advice. I'm like, dude, what's up? I've been down the road. Let me pay it forward. If I can help you, no problem. Yeah. Okay, cool. So I just started making art like 2 days ago. And, I got this cool thing. I think I'm going to drop my Genesis for 5 ETH. And then once that sells, probably my plan is to, in about 6 months, get up to 20, something. I was like, okay, you said 2 days ago you started? Okay. Good. Congratulations. Art is art. Very good. Art takes a lot of time and you're seeing these prices and people jump right to like level 5. Oh yeah. When I think people understand it takes a long time to develop a style and be able to produce piece after piece that can be collected, that people want to buy. I make plenty of shit that was on my hard drive that I don't sell because I don't, it's like when you make a song, you got to write fucking 20 songs to get a banger, so same thing with art. So I think for me, like when people come and looking for advice for this type of stuff, it's like, you got to make a lot of art. You got to and be humble. Like you said, you were giving your stuff away as I was back in the day, it's not about instant gratification in art. I think it's about, showing up, being consistent, improving, and slowly letting the market tell you how the value is doing. I used to sell portraits.
If you're too busy recognizing yourself, it's gonna go a certain way for you. You could make those early sales for sure, but I think that you want people to acknowledge that this is good because, and let them tell you why your stuff is good, and then that'll dictate the whole pricing aspect and things like that.
Yeah. Like I hate putting value on things I make, especially who the fuck am I to say? That is the last person that should be deciding what this thing is worth. So what I did from the very beginning, especially with the portraits or any of it really, with the portraits, I started them, I think at 0.5 or 0.25 ether. I don't know, something, right? Because I didn't know. And I wanted to see what the market was going to bear me. It's like, what's the demand? And, let's say the first piece, I don't know. The first piece sold for 0.5. Awesome. I don't care. Great. So a couple pieces for 0.5. Seems like that's a stable floor. We're going to go now to, I don't know, 0.75 or something, and see how that works. And then as the market, if those sell hot and people are hitting you up, they're like, what's next? They're like, could we do 1.5? You have to look at the external demand before you look at the internal demand, and for me, that made it way more, kind of in the flow. It took me out of the loop, and I let everyone else tell me what these things were worth. And that made it easier to price things because it wasn't the ego side of it where it was like, man, this thing took me, this is the best idea I've ever had. This is took me a way long time. These intangible things. That's not a collector value. That's just your own time. Right. And sometimes you could spend 200 hours on something, but no one wants it. So I had to kind of wrangle with that myself where it's like, okay, well, if it takes me, it doesn't matter how long it takes. When it's done, you put it up for sale at what people are willing to collect for, Right. So
yeah, I think that goes across the board in the NFT market right now. You're talking about I'm pretty up to date with the Metaverse stuff, the general land and things of that nature. And people ask me a lot similar questions, but what should I buy? And I'm like, well, you really gotta have a broader understanding for what's going on, because you can buy something and look at it like it's got value to you, and then then that value goes up in the future, or you can buy something thinking I'm gonna park my, let's say, Ethereum or Mana or whatever coin here, and then that coin goes up, and then you're now wishing you had that coin because you're just looking at the value in said coin,
Yep.
When it comes to Metaverse stuff, and specifically buying and selling land, that really, requires you to have some deeper understanding about what's going on around here, and where things are going to be going, and what you plan on, what your position is, in this, I've had friends of mine, buy land, and then I'm like, well, you should do something with that land, and then when they look at the cost of doing those kind of things or time it takes to learn to do those things, then it might not be as interesting to them, and then they're ready to sell off,
Sure.
So I just think that you got to understand what you're trying to do with this stuff, and a broader understanding of everything, whatever you're trying to get into, whether it's the art world, selling your art pieces, and you're talking about just feeling the market out. Okay, this is what people would pay for this, and this is how the industry is going as in general. Some of the social aspects and stuff like that. And then you have a better understanding of what you're supposed to be doing. You know, that's just kind of where I look at it as far as, because you can't just like point. It's not. I always tell people like this, like it's not, nothing's point and click. Like nothing's like right away. This is how that goes, and that's the consistently going to be like that throughout, especially in a brand new market industry, whatever you want to call it. You know, it's brand new. This stuff is new to a lot of people. You know.
Yeah, yeah. For me, you know, like again, we go back to early Cryptovoxels. That's you know, and DCL. You know, very early of all that stuff. And I made a point that I have a piece of land in most of the major places, just because who knows what's going to shake out, and I wanted to have at least a spot with whatever was going to make it. And through that, you know, especially early with Cryptovoxels, it was fun and it was quick to build, and it was a one click you can get in. There was very low friction, which I thought for me, with who I was connecting with, even especially like off coin people, you know, like people who weren't in the Web3, they didn't need an account, and I loved that they could just click a button and come in. So I started building, and you know, building my own galleries. I built an event space. You know, I built these just different things, testing out galleries and communities and events and that type of stuff. And what I found was that, especially those early Cryptovoxels plots, I see Cryptovoxels as being a time capsule of early Metaverse, and the builds that are on there that especially haven't been touched are aging, right? It's like you go to, you know, Boston or wherever, and you're walking down the street and you see all these skyscrapers. Then you see this antiquity building that is hundreds of years old next to the Starbucks or whatever. That to me is what's up. Like that, we need to preserve our history in the Metaverse. And I've been doing some deep dives on history that are fucking crazy shit. And history is lost, right? Over time, we tear down buildings and build new buildings, probably just to keep the builders paid. I don't know why we do this. Beautiful buildings are torn down. It's blasphemy. But like, I think we need to look at that in our current metaverses and honor the old buildings, even as janky as we think they might look.
Well, yeah, because the effort that it took to make some of these things, you know, it's similar to those old buildings. That a lot of reasons I think that they take them down is just because the effort it keeps the upkeep on a building that, you know, was labor intensive in building and then keeping it looking beautiful the way it was. The people of today don't want to put that kind of effort in, so they're like, you know, let's just tear this down because we can put a prefab in there and pop. Now we've got a big fat building. We're making tons of money off of this. We got, you know that kind of thing.
It's the same thing, because like, you know, that exact same thing happens in I'll just say Cryptovoxels because I know that one the most. You know, there's been improvements along the time and changes to the way images are served and all this stuff. So I went back to one of my old plots I hadn't looked at in a year, and everything was just chaos. You know, like the GIFs weren't GIFing, or, you know, something was happening, and I was looking at like, oh my God. And so I did a little bit of quote unquote renovation, right? I left the walls. You know, there's like these pillars almost literally that I didn't want to touch, and I'm trying to preserve those, because I think, again, when you're talking about, like, especially from, you know, an investment side as a digital landowner, the value that I bring is the content that I put on my site. You know, it's not so much where the land is on the map, which, you know, if you're in a good part of town, that's great. But it's also if you have a historical, you know, so I was doing the, with my portraits, I would stack up the PNG files. So you would get like almost like I'm doing with my VR ones where you can walk around the portrait. I was testing that in Cryptovoxels in, like, you know, 2019 or 2020, right? Well, it was very rudimentary back then, but me looking at it now, there's huge historical impact to me, and it makes that land way more visit worthy, you know, because it's not just a blank piece of land. It was kind of an environmental art piece that is multiple years old. So when I'm looking at the land I own, it's in I think every artist's best interest to develop it and do something experimental and wild. You know, we could throw up a 4-wall cube and put some art every 18 feet and do that standard deal.
Mm-hmm.
Or we could do something avant-garde that freaks people out and they remember your plot. Because the metaverse can keep being replicated. I mean, I understand some of these worlds are, I don't even know if they're closed, but like digital land in general can be made more. You know, so I think its content is king in the metaverse as well. You're in it differently than me, so please tell me if you think otherwise. But
no, I mean,
that's how I'm
in
kind of
DCL when it comes to, like, because that's where, you know, I build the most. In DCL, you can pretty much swap builds. I mean, if you know what you're doing, you can swap builds every day if you wanted to. You know, I like me and Juxton, we put a lot of effort into the bar that I built. And so I like to keep that up. I don't think I'll be changing that maybe ever. You know, maybe the content, like you're saying, the content in there, maybe from time to time, if we're trying to do something, one thing or another. But the build, the only thing I've done is upgrade the textures. You know, like the brick texture. It went from, I mean, not even having brick texture and looking more like a cartoon, and, you know, looking a little bit more textury. You know, so I've done that, but other than that, I try to keep it generally the same look. I like people to, you know, there's a lot of people that have in the past taken pictures in front of my place, and, you know, Frankies Tavern is, you know, is kind of like a thing people know about. So I like to have it be the same. And then you know, over time, maybe, like I said, like you were talking about, just changing content in there. You know, we have a video screen, we can do things with the video screen, you know, with stuff like that. You know, Juxton is an able-bodied coder for sure, so he can do a lot of things on the code side of things, you know, that can give us all kinds of different content, you know. So I think that on that side of things, like Sugar Club has upgraded some of the textures, you know, and maybe some of the like optimization of that thing, so it doesn't crash and doesn't, you know, whatever. But I mean, Sugar Club still looks like Sugar Club from the past. And that's what gives it's like traditional. You know where you're going. You know you're going to that place. It's gonna look like that. You know what to expect from the inside of it. Now he could be giving you all kinds of different content in there. It would be different music playing. An artist, like, for at one point he had done something with Space Painter, and they did a bunch of like content in there. You know, so that was great. You know. So you're able to kind of swap different things within these builds, you know, but at the same time, keep it like these people know this from this. Now, I'm working in Festival District, and we swap the builds a lot per whatever the clients need, you know. So this is a different concept where you have like a business, you know, and you're saying, hey, this plot of land is kind of available to you, you know, to be used in whatever way you want to, and we can contract that out to, you know, our team of builders, which is a whole different concept of one guy holding a plot of land, and, you know, like myself, just building a little bar on it and trying to get in like a meeting spot for people to come in and hang out. You know, this is like more like it's business, you know, as it should be. I think there's room for both, you know.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's what's evolving now, is right. You know, there's like the innovators, you know, the early people who are in there like figuring out what can happen, right? And it's scaling that,
Exactly.
you know, so that whatever the client, you know, if you're talking a business need, what does the client need? Well, shit, you know, because you put in the time, you know, you were building. It's not like, well, I can tinker around and see what I come up with. It's like, no, you can get 2 screens. I know that the frame rate's such and such, so you can't do this and that. And, you know, like, that's expertise.
Yeah, you've got to have like trial and error for that. You know, over time, I've had, like, one of my things in the beginning was I wanted to try every single new thing the day it came out, pretty much, you know. And, you know, over time that became impossible because it got so advanced that I needed, you know, somebody like Juxton to be able to understand, you know, even how to do some of this stuff. And then as time went along, we got jobs, you know, we became the business people in the world, you know. So I'm like, I love the way the bar went because it became like a testing ground for different things. and then also became our step up to, you know, from being one of the innovators and the people that were just tinkering to people that are doing business, that are being paid for their time, and it's amazing, you know.
Yeah, no, happy to hear that. Yeah, it's the, you know, it's like the 10,000 hours, you know, Outliers book by Malcolm Gladwell. It's just, you know, have you read that? Do you know that book?
I know of it, but I didn't
It's
read
a great. It's a. I suck at reading. I got the audio book.
the audio.
Actually, I think I read that book, which says a lot because I really suck at reading. Um, but it's just it's the story of 10,000 hours where it takes that amount of time to become a master of whatever you do, whether it's hockey or, you know, being a doctor or whatever the fuck you want to do. You got to put in the time, and that's exactly what you did. You put in the time, and now you've ascended to that level where you're a boss, you know. So I think, you know, like we were saying with art, like all this shit, it's time. If there's one takeaway from this all, it's just time, right? And time is an illusion.
You literally have to. You can't be scared to put in the work. A lot of people want to come in here for the money grab of it, you know. And you know, it's you know, who was it? I think it's Andreas Antonopoulos said, like, come for the money, stay for the money. You know what I mean?
Yep. Sure.
And, you know, it's like, it's not to say don't get money. It's saying, you know, it's like you still stick around, and you'll get way more value out of this than the original concept of, oh, you know, this will make me more money if I put a little bit of money into it, you know?
Yep. Absolutely. And I've seen people make 10,000 times more money than I'll ever make.
Right.
You know, like ridiculous amounts of money in like a half an hour, right? And like part of me looks at it like, holy shit, like that looks nice. But then you go back 6 months later and you see what they're up to. They dipped out. They minted in a half hour and they were gone in 35 minutes.
Exactly.
You know, like they're gone. Yep. And that's just not the path. It doesn't make sense to me, right? So, congrats to them, man. Bermuda.
I think they to each his own. If that's what you sought out, you know, I know people that, again, I know people that did that. They were interested in a little bit of money, and they got it. You know, but the thing is, you know, to me, the longevity is more like, if you look at, I always equate this to early days of IBM and Apple. If you look at those days, and the internet as well. When you look at those days, a lot of the people that may have made the most money in the beginning, they weren't even around today. They're not CEOs or nothing, but time will tell. And, you know, I think that this industry will see, you know, a big business going into the future, and they're going to need people to direct things, you know, to understand the things on a deeper level. And you only get there by those hours you're talking about. And that's when you get into the 20, 30, 50,000 hours, you know, where you're like, you know, you know, you can't have even no matter what schooling, there's no schooling for this stuff right now. So there's not schooling enough for you to understand the things that we understand from, you know, being the builders and from being the original people who had to do through trial and error what they're going to eventually write into, you know, a digital textbook in the future, or a digital audio book, or whatever they're going to be doing, you know, for consuming information, you know?
Yep. And I think that's the beautiful thing is you have to learn by doing it. Mm-hmm. And I think there's an inherent sort of risk to that, because you're giving all this time to this thing that isn't proven. Mm-hmm. So it's like an asymmetrical bet where you're putting in time, and you can put your time in equally anywhere. Mm-hmm. But if you find the right thing that is like asymmetrically, like not aligned to this other stuff, there's a risk, but the reward is exponential, either high or low, right? But the reward, whatever you're putting in, could be drastically higher, or if you're doing 1000x leverage, it could be drastically lower. Right? You know, so like that's where, when as an investor or a entrepreneur, I always look for those asymmetrical options, because worst case, I have some sweat equity that I put into. I've done this many times in other businesses and little ventures I've done. Those didn't take off, but what I lost was time and some sweat equity. All right, you know, easy enough to keep moving on. Same thing here. If you have time and some sweat equity, you could make whatever you want out of it, and that's where I love to play. You know, so I'm stoked. I don't even care. Like, do I look at charts like just to see what's happening? Yeah, of course. I mean, it's the overall ecosystem um, works off of these currencies and whatever. So yeah, I'm interested what's happening,
Mhm.
but I'll tell you, like, I am so fucking busy right now, like just building and making stuff, and
Mhm.
I'm doing like secret drops. I
Mhm.
like like I was talking about. Could I hold this stuff off for 6 months and wait till some market change? Absolutely. I probably
Mhm.
I don't know. I make more money that way. I don't care about that. Like I want to keep experimenting in my own ways, and like I'm not even announcing these drops before they go live. I'm just like, hey, it's if you want it, it's right there.
Mhm.
And they're just sitting there right now. People are buying them here and there,
Mhm.
but I don't care. Like that's a new experiment of you can have a huge rollout plan with Twitter Spaces and a press release and a whole red carpet show, and I've seen those happen, and sometimes those don't even go well, right? So I'm like,
You
well,
know what I've noticed with Twitter Spaces is it's becomes like an echo chamber. A lot of
yep,
people, they want to be in there and they want to see things succeed because of their own personal, a lot of times their own personal bags. So they're
yeah,
in the Twitter space looking to be in this echo chamber, hoping to get another person to add to the echo chamber,
yep,
and
yep, yep,
and at that point the content could be anything. It could
absolutely, absolutely, yeah, and that also is where a discerning eye comes into play. We need to be savvy as consumers, and that's not even collecting art, it's consuming art,
mm-hmm.
because there's power in your eyeballs just seeing something. That's why billboards are successful. You're not actually buying anything from that billboard, but it's soaking into your brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we need to hone our own acuity for what we want to consume and use our eyeballs as our greatest tool in our power, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to look at a I'm not going to shit on all PFPs, but I mean, there's a lot of shitty PFPs out there. I'm going to say that because
Yep.
here's why, and I'll go in a little bit deeper so I don't get blasted for saying that,
Yep.
because there's such a derivative nature going on to these projects,
Mm-hmm.
and art inspires art. I will start with that 100%. My art is inspired by these bookshelves of masters that I study and love, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of course. However, when you take um, a piece of art and you flip it the other way, and now it's the other side of the portrait or something, or I'm gonna keep all the names out of it. You could connect your own dots,
Mm-hmm.
but like when it's the exact same color scheme that one time was super unique, that is now the exact same color scheme, and the artwork's the same, but it's like warped
Mm-hmm.
or some little
Mm-hmm.
fucking thing. Those people are not making art at all. That is not a creative thought, and those are things that I don't even want to look at, because that's the cash grab.
Yeah.
No one was sitting in their mom's basement dreaming up a derivative project. Like, that is a guy or gal, whatever, that
Yeah.
wants to cash in, right?
Right.
And I think that that's the echo chambers that are being made,
Mm-hmm.
and people that don't know better hop in there being like, holy shit, this is the coolest thing. Well, if you were around 3 months ago, you saw the first one that actually was cool.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know better, and you're being used to buy
And you got,
this.
let's say a Twitter space has got, throw a number out there, 35 people in it.
Yeah,
And 32 of them are part of like the early adopters, let's say, to this thing. And they want those 3 people to think what you're talking about is the coolest, most newest thing. I went to a meetup one time, and I got guys talking to me about PFPs, and I'm not a big PFP person, and in general, I have a couple, but
sure.
and honestly, they're more like, I call them scratch tickets, you know,
Yeah, sure.
you know,
100%.
but like they come to me talking about these things, and I'm thinking like, well, what are you doing with it? What is your, like, what does it do? You know,
Yep.
where does it take you? Is it helping? I don't know. Is it helping the space grow? Does it have a, and all these like roadmaps, it's kind of like, it seems a lot of roadmaps been thrown out the window once the the bear market hits. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, this roadmap is this and that, provided that we make millions of dollars. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you don't want them to make too many millions because then they'll have no incentive to complete the roadmap.
And that
You
was
know?
another thing I thought was kind of odd about, let's say, ones that, like, let's say they started a this and that. I don't know. This is to fund this, and then you get the money up front. It's like, all right, man, I'm about to do a contracted job. Let's just put it that way. I'm about to build this building, and then I make these tickets. Let's call them tickets, and they everybody buys these tickets, and now we've crowdfunded this building. But now I just have the money for the whole building and all the materials. Do I go buy the materials, or do I go on vacation?
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And if you stay working on it, are you going to do your best work knowing that you already got paid, or are you just going to like run through it and miss some of the studs and not worry about that load bearing wall and just get it up,
Exactly.
Because like, why does it matter? You already got paid.
Kind of reminds me of like when the mafia was running, construction. They were getting these huge jobs, and they knew how much money they were going to get for them, and they knew the corners that they could cut, and what have you, because they knew that nobody was going to press them for the next job. They're getting the next job too.
Yep. I think that that's just basic business. I think we also need to hold those projects accountable for, and maybe there's a way that maybe that's the new thing. We have some type of DAO escrow fund where it's like, yeah, sure, you want that 100 mil, it's sitting in that fucking pot. Complete your roadmap and you get that shit.
Exactly. You have like I think it started during a time when we were hurting for developers, people that could code like that. There was no incentive for them to leave their jobs making $75,000-$100,000 a year to come risk it on working on an NFT project. And then it almost the needle went the whole other way, where you had like, well, now you've got a couple $1 million to complete this project right up front. And it's like, whoa, there's got to be some sort of in between here, where people definitely want this. So yeah, there's money for you, but we've got, it's got to be divvied out maybe a little bit more intelligently,
Yeah. And one thing actually, I used to love with like I did this sparingly, but a couple like Kickstarter things where I would like, throw some money and get something back, right? I love the stretch goals. We're like, if we can get here, we're going to give you more. If we get past our goal by 200%, not only are you going to get your 3D scanner, but we're also going to give you the turntable to make your stuff better. These little things. I think that, maybe that's happening. I'm definitely not in all these worlds, but
right.
I feel like there needs to be a little bit more reciprocation on this.
What I'm seeing is that a lot of them want to be like, you will be rewarded financially if we meet our goals. And then at that point, it's like, well, what are you doing then? Like, what is the work that needs to be done? If you can just kick me back a couple $1,000 or whatever it is for what's happened here, and then are you just going to keep making what you're talking about, like derivatives, If it, at some point, what are we doing with them? Are we gonna, I think a lot of the concept behind this was like, this would be like your identity, or going forward, and then but now you've got 1,500 identities because you've become now a collector of these things,
Yep.
So like, what are we really talking about? Are these things gonna be like, if you talk about the metaverse, the larger metaverse, not one thing or another, but the larger metaverse, like, now you're gonna be able to use said character, but how much value do I have in being a gorilla, or how much value do I have in being a lady with blue hair? Like, where at what point do we say that wasn't worth $200,000?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. That's the speculation of it all. I think that's, and I collect too, so I'm equally as culpable in these.
Yeah. I'm not saying I know better than them. I just, sometimes I'm a little reflection. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you know what? I think that's part of the game. I think it's taking, like you said, these scratcher tickets,
Hmm.
and if in terms of like monetary gain, they're not all going to hit.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, you better like what you buy no matter what, because at least you could be a blue-haired lady if that's what you liked. You're gonna have the blue-haired lady thing. So you better rock it because you
Hmm.
bought it, right? But at the same time, maybe blue-haired lady becomes the thing that everybody wants, and you're like, holy shit, that thing cost me $2.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the fun part.
It
Is
really
there's
is, and
all.
that's the whole kind of the reason I equate it to scratch tickets. Because I'm
Yep.
like,
Yep.
there is an element of it is nice when everybody's chasing the thing that you have, and it didn't cost you that much.
But the scratch ticket we buy now at the store doesn't even have a picture on it. It's just got a bunch of numbers.
Right,
Maybe
right.
maybe we need to change the way those fucking lotto tickets work. I feel so sad when I go to the gas station or something and you see someone who's like needing a change in their life. This is like they're hoping they hit the fucking lottery,
Oh man,
right?
I
They're like,
worked in a casino for
oh,
years, and
oh, it's
that's
so. Oh, I can only
yeah,
imagine. Oh
yeah,
God, just sad. It's like I just want to tell them like buy just a little Bitcoin. Just buy anything. don't
yeah.
don't
Buy
buy these.
buy something that's more of an investment than
Yeah, buy some toothpaste or
yeah.
something.
But that's a tough part. I dealt with with different friends and stuff like that where when somebody is in that position mentally, it won't matter what they buy because they're all gonna look at it the same. It's gonna everything is that scratch ticket to them. Or that slot machine or that play hand on the table. It's the same thing to them. So Bitcoin to that person is not going to be Bitcoin to you.
True.
You
Very
know,
true. Very
it's a
true. It's a
mental
very good
state.
point. Yep. And it's the time. Again, we'll go harken back to time. They're not willing to put the time in to
Right. That's what I'm saying.
get what they need. They want instant results. So,
Exactly.
like you said, to each their own. I don't judge anybody at all. I just think that, like, I mean, life is hard. That's
It's
just
gotta be.
and that's it. Like
Now,
whatever.
I think on the same way, Cody, I saw something recently, and it's not new. I've been seeing it more and more recently. Whereas, like, the regular market, okay, so the regular market's going down and the crypto market's going down. But the
Yeah.
headlines is always crypto market causes this.
Yeah. I just
And
saw it today.
yeah, I saw something today, and I don't know if you saw the same thing I saw, talking
Was
about
this
how
was it about the watches? Was it about
yeah,
watches? Yeah. What the fuck is that? That
how
was
did
a
we
bait.
do that? Like, how did we
I
do
look.
that?
I don't even own a watch.
I got
I
a
don't
little
believe.
watch, but it's not a Rolex, and it's not a Audemars Piguet, nothing like that. But I'm saying, like, come on, man, like, how did we do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
No. No. We're
I
the
mean,
whipping
if
post.
and again, if people were going overboard and spending too much money on watches behind the, I mean, there's gonna be the same people that are buying PFP for 200,000.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And then yeah, I did some people buy watches? Absolutely. If I was one of those guys that we were talking about that made $230 million in 30 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
why not buy a watch at
Yeah,
that point?
yeah,
You know, um, but like everybody I know didn't buy a watch.
right,
You
yeah.
know, like, I could put my hands down. Like I don't think anybody bought a watch. You know,
Yeah, I just I think the traditional market loves to kind of scapegoat the crypto market as like these people who are on this get money quick scheme type thing.
yeah,
And I think there's a little bit of things that are lost in translation there, where many of the people who jumped in midway, you know, they definitely kind of it was a learned behavior for them, you know,
absolutely.
and so they were going in and trying to do that in other places. But I don't think that like when you talk about the crash of like say the S&P, that has like it coincided much more with the war that's happening than
Yes.
it did with crypto also going down a whole bunch.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
feel like it's like, hey, look over there, type
Yep.
thing. Elvis, like,
Yep. No, it's true. And I think critical thinking is like not taught in our modern day society.
mhm.
You either have it and you develop it on your own, or you don't have it And a lot of people never developed that care of critical thinking, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and that can go on all spectrums of reality in life. But I think especially with these things where someone tells you the cause of something, you're like, oh, it's got to be because I heard it over there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if CNBC told me that is what's happening, that's what's happening. They're the news. I trust the news. Well,
Yeah.
maybe you should look into that
That's
and verify.
that's the thing I get I kind of get on people who come to me about that. I said seen somebody bring to me an article about somebody buying the sandbox parcels near Snoop Dogg and for how
Okay.
much they
Yeah.
bought it for, and I'm like, well, that happened a year ago.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I'm like, so if you're reading an article that came out yesterday talking about what happened a year ago, like maybe we should just be talking about what are you reading, you know? And
Yeah.
how do you take things? How do you take your information in? Do you let people dictate the information you take in, or do you go actively and seek out the information that so you can understand it? You know?
Sure. Yep. Yeah. I think that I, I I I hope that as time goes on, more people understand that. I think we're in like a awakening time where there's a lot of shit going down that people are being forced to look at things differently, and I think that's an evolution for the whole world. Is that you can go with the flow and just keep doing what people tell you and
Mm-hmm.
see where that gets you, or you could take a little bit more control over your destiny and be like, what is being pushed on me, and do I agree with that? If you do, cool. Like, go on that train. I don't care.
Yeah.
Fine. But at least make the decision yourself instead of letting somebody dictate your final destination, because that scares the shit out of me. I will tell you that. Like, because I just beat my drum is beat differently. So I can't go with your flow because chances are it's not going to work with what I'm building and where I want to go. So am I researching shit all the time? Yeah. And does that stuff enlighten me in other ways I wasn't expecting? Absolutely so. And does that also help me want to make art about things? It's all tied together, right? It's just, and I think that, God, I just think critical thinking is so important. I just look around at people. It's like, are you thinking at all right now?
Right.
Like,
exactly.
are you? Chances are, it doesn't look like you are. I don't think that you really are. And that scares me. That shit scares me.
Well, at least you'll have never-ending content for your art.
Dude, talk about a good time to be alive for content. So I started a series called Fake News, and it was because I just wanted to. First of all, I just love doing collage, and I wanted a way that I could keep doing collage in a way that wasn't structured around portraits or something that was like finite, that I could just get things off my chest, whether it was personal stuff or world stuff. Or I'm not a political guy, but I love mixing it up and just doing some thought-provoking art, right? So I made this new series. Like, that's one of the stealth drops. I didn't fucking do a Twitter Spaces about it. And like, I decided 2 days before NFT NYC that I'm starting a new series, and then done. I just launched it, and that felt really good because it wasn't like asking a team of advisors what was the best move and how should we position. I didn't give a fuck about that. I said, no, I'm starting this shit right now, and I'm doing these really fun, freeing designs, and I don't even care if they sell or not. It's just I'm making and I'm producing, right? And it's because of all this shit too. I can just, get my thoughts out there and fucking create. It's just all I want to do.
Definitely. It's the tortoise and the hare, man. You know what I mean?
It's it. That's it. Yeah. It's exactly it.
Continue to continue.
Yeah. So yeah, man, I think I still think that we're like super I hate saying being early, but it's still so underdeveloped what we're all doing that we have to keep doing it. We have to keep.
I always tell people, I think they're like, when you talk about the NFT space and even the crypto space, I always equate the crypto space to the early IBM days and stuff like that. And then I look at the NFT space, like we're like, in history, like let's say let's say if you use the crypto timeline, we're like at Mount Gox right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're not nowhere,
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't even know. If I say that reference, people that are newer to the market, they don't know what I'm talking about. You
No,
know,
not at all.
so
Nope.
it's just
And
again about doing your research, knowing the industry that you're in, and then understanding where we possibly going. I'm not saying that we all just know,
no,
but there are
no way.
very similar telltale signs that seem to be happening now, before, and you know what I mean, going
Yeah.
forward. That just they, it seems the story is rewriting itself.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep. And I think that, yeah, it's rewriting itself and it's a fractal,
Mm-hmm.
and we keep revisiting things until either we learn from it collectively or personally. I think that you have to keep revisiting things, and I think maybe collectively we didn't learn from 2017, so we have to go
Not at
back
all.
through it and fix it, right? Because like I know we didn't learn anything from it
Because
because
we just
there's
repeated it.
new.
We just literally
Yeah,
repeated it
we just did it
straight
with
through.
DeFi. We just
Yeah.
changed it. We
Yeah.
just changed it to fucking DeFi now,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I hope, that we can stop these awful bus cycles. Again, it's not a bust, but it's these things. They're so tragic, up
Exactly.
and down, that I think if once we can all pull our heads out collectively and be like, okay, let's not let it get back down the 90% drops.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get our shit together so that for the next drop, maybe it's only 40 or 50%. That's still brutal, but like
Mm-hmm.
if we can like grow up together and get this thing a little bit less like pump and dumpy,
Mm-hmm.
that's what's gonna happen. Until we do
Well,
that, it's
it's
gonna
it's
be,
it's the same echo chamber that we're talking about with spaces.
yeah,
It's like stop feeding into what literally is being spoon fed to you, like from the
yeah,
traditional market and from our own echo chambers. Because
yep,
that's the boom and the bust right there. The
yep,
boom is the echo chamber, and then the bust is going back on CNBC and being like, "Hey, they said it's over, man. Let's all just
yep,
get jobs at McDonald's and stuff." And you're like, well, what are you? Are you this or that?
yep,
Are you
yep,
working on this thing? Do you believe that this thing, is the way to go? Or are you that, that you like? Remember I think it's Katie Couric back in the day. She was like, "What is an
yes,
email? I don't understand this
yes,
thing." And you're like, these there's people on TV today. They're talking about, well, this metaverse thing. I don't understand that. And I had a buddy tell me like, like why would I care about the metaverse? I'm like, I don't care if you care about the metaverse. I know that your sons will, and I know your daughter will. They're gonna
yeah,
understand it natively as their way of communication, just like we took text messaging and emojis and stuff like that and turned it into a language. Maybe
yep,
not my generation. Maybe the generation just after me did that. But I know like in the beginning. Let's say I'm from like the beginning of text messaging. That's how early in the life
yeah,
I am or whatever. But like
yep,
I remember when for instance, I remember when girls started text messaging me, and I'm like, "What's up with this?" You know.
yeah,
But I went with it because it was a girl text messaging me.
sure,
It
sure,
wasn't that
sure,
bad.
yeah, yep,
And emojis seem to have lived the same kind of life. And this is the way we communicate. These
yep.
children are going to communicate in a 3D space, and they're not going to understand you unless you talk in a 3D language.
100%. Yep. Yeah, we could thank all our girlfriends for getting us into text messaging. Like
Mm-hmm.
they were the early adopters. Like
Yeah.
like we're all bringing back that. I love that. It's so true. Like I wouldn't have given a fuck unless I had a chat to some lady. I never thought about that. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think I don't know. It's a rabbit hole of evolution, and I think I'm just stoked that we can come around here and like be as weird and wild and nice and spread good energy, and just like with all technology it could be used for good or bad,
Yeah.
and all I know for me is that I'm going to bring as much goodness from
Mm-hmm.
my side as I can and hope that collectively we can tip it to the positive side, right?
Right.
Because
And there's always going to be the negative reaction. There's
of
always going to be the
course,
negative thing. Here's the thing: is just keep your energy. Just like most in most things in life, you got to keep your energy. We're not going to be able to recreate this time ever again. I had a buddy talking about that. He was jaded by big businesses coming in and possibly eating him up in his part of the industry, and I said, well, listen, man, like, this is, we're not going to be able to recreate 2018, 2019 in the NFT space. That's just, it's not happening. We lived a special time when everybody was able to communicate. There wasn't a lot of hatred going around. There was a lot of, like you're talking about, niceness going on at that time. But when I had been warning about it in those, you can go back and talk, look at those interviews and stuff. I was warning about it. I said, listen, these big money guys, they don't give a shit about you, man. They don't care how you feel. They don't care about what's nice. They'll dig in your pockets and go get that money, And, here we are now. They're digging, So you got to understand that that's going to happen, and then decide what you want to do about it. Decide who you want to be within the next part of it. But at least we had our time. We had a really good time, 2018, 19, even 17 for some of you guys, where, the lines of communication were open to a regular person to come into the industry and set up and become somebody,
Yeah. And it still is that way. I think it's, I look forward to, there's so many amazing creators that are still waiting on the sidelines, apprehensive or unsure, or maybe they don't know about what's going on here. And all we can keep doing is doing that. And honestly, that's why, like, in my brain, when I started tokenizing, I wanted to be somebody that, the Banksies and the Shepherd Fairies and, these big, contemporary artists that, I think are great artists. I understand it, the way it works at their levels. And I wanted to be the guinea pig so that they could see that, okay, like, you can do peer-to-peer transactions. That's, like, really, when I got into this, like, I hope this helps Shepherd figure it out and come in. That's all. It's really all I wanted to do. And that worked, right? Over time, the Shepherds came in, right? Shepherd Fairy came in, Damien Hirst has come in. And we have to know that it was the early times of them watching and seeing that it worked, right? Because that's what we're doing. We're literally laying the groundwork for everyone. And I take a lot of pride and seriousness to these experiments, because if an experiment goes well for me, I hope that can amplify out and other people can be like, shit, it worked in that little way. So if it worked for him in that way, then I could use it in this way. That's this mass adoption that we always like talk about someday happening. That's how it actually happens, is by experimenting,
Like on the side of our building, it's the same thing. I'm just some guy that learned how to work in Blender like 2 years ago or something like that. Like, there's people who design video games for Xbox and stuff like that. We're going to need those guys. Those guys are going to take this to the next level. And, and hopefully what we've done with these metaverses can just be a very, like a small picture into what can happen. Very similar to the wearable we were talking about of yours earlier with UNK design. Whereas, like, you have this early NFT of yours sitting, and I'm trying to do this, sitting over your shoulder here, and then hopefully in the future that can be coded. Any NFT can go in there, and and that's a regular thing that people do in the metaverse, and people are understanding why you have what you have, why you bought digital art and stuff like that, because then it can be displayed in a whole different fashion that everybody don't understand today, but it'll be regular form of communication in the future,
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. Man, this is fun. I really want to keep talking more with you. This is like we get on pretty good. We could shoot some shit.
Yeah. But I know you're a busy man, and I appreciate the time that you've given me, man, because I know that you don't have a ton of time to do this stuff. So
I make time, dude. I love and I make time for you because you're awesome.
Really.
And I would love to do this again, because I I have a lot of questions for you that I do have to jump. But I have a lot of metaverse questions, so I'd love to maybe we could make this a 2-part thing, because or whatever, you do your thing, but like I would love to come back, and because I almost want to like interview you about metaverse stuff, right? Because you're so deep in that game that there's just a lot of questions that I have and I get asked, and I think that where we're headed is definitely into the metaverse, and it's how do you see that being constructed? So If you'd have me back, I would love to
Of course,
pick your brain.
I'd love to
Stuff
make
too.
this the part one, and we'll do part two whenever you have the time. You let me know.
Cool. Sounds good. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Well, I won't hold you any longer, and thank you so much for doing this.
Oh,
And
dude, my pleasure. This was fun.
Yeah.
This is great.
All right, Coldie. Well, we'll talk again, and like I said, I just thank you so much for doing this because you know, it helps me out a ton. You know.
Yeah. No, I'm stoked to do it. I think. Do you know like when do these get released?
It shouldn't take me very long. It just depends on how much editing I got to do, but I do have the time. I'm off today from the job work. You know.
Sure.
You know, so I shouldn't have too much to do today. So I'm hoping I can get it up within the day or two. You know.
Yeah, just let me know. I'll pamp it around and share it to all my channels, and yeah, we'll rock it out.
Beautiful thing, man. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. Keep up the good work, and we're all building something pretty wild here. So we just gotta keep our heads down and see the bigger picture. It's a big deal.
Exactly. We're not even halfway through the roadmap.
No, it's like the second inning. Like second bullpen hasn't even started warming up yet. Dude. It's very.
All right, Coldie. Like I said, hit me up anytime, and
of course, same with you. Hit me up. I'd love to just connect more in general. It doesn't even have to be on a podcast. Let's just connect. You're a good guy. We can shoot the shit.
Much appreciated. We'll talk soon, man.
All right, man. Peace.
All right, take it easy. All right.